don't. I guess I should probably be in the shot, yeah. All right. All right. I don't know if the audio is working.
Now, does that change anything? That it's recognized that.
Okay, is that registering? I believe it is. I think you can actually hear that. Okay. So, okay, this is what this channel is about. It's actually not about me, as you could totally see here, right? I'm putting myself in a little bubble at the bottom of the screen, and please forgive me. I am just getting with this technical stuff. I don't want to overinvest in the technical stuff unless I, do this frequently. And if I do it frequently, then hopefully we will develop a following. And if we don't, then I guess I won't do it. But for now, I'm just, I only wanted to do modest technological buys because I don't think people come back for a fancy camera. They come back for good content. So, okay. So I realize when I'm looking at something, everything is upside down. I do realize that. So, maybe I'll turn it so it's not upside down for you because I already know what I'm talking about. And you might want to be able to read a page. Is that even right? Yeah, that is right set up for you, right? I don't know. We'll even see. I don't know. Again, you don't even need to read a goddamn thing on the screen. So this is all visuals here. All right. So I am a new DM. I've been playing D&D for 2 years. Now, I realize I'm an old person, but I had never played the game in my youth when other people my age were aware of the game. I was aware of the game. I was also aware of the whatever panic, of the satanic panic around it, but I was never interested in the game, so it was sort of background noise, even though I'm somewhat aware person of those sort of things. Anyway, so I recently come to the game as someone who's playing it actively, weekly, whatever it is, for the last 3 years. Let's say 3 years. And I've been in one group really so far. It's changed. There's only 2 original members in it, but it's been going for that entire time that I've played. And as I said, we play Friday nights. And so we've had different DMs. The original DM who formed the group is no longer playing with us, but it has passed over several people's tenure. And it was by hook or by crook, I am now DMing. So I have ran a session 0 where we did like a 0.5 where we started the campaign. And then we did the second session. So I guess that was session 0 and 1. I'm splitting hairs. Then we did a session 2 where we brought on 2 additional players. I was hoping to get 6 players in total for me DMing. We lost some of our members, after a 2-year campaign. Some people need to take a break. So anyway, that's just life. So anyway, so now it comes to me as someone says, hey, I've been working on the Tyranny of Dragons, which is the first 5e module campaign that was released with Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition in 2014. Now, this, while it was published as an official D&D book and published by WotC, Wizards of the Coast, and no one ever says what that means. And you either know what WotC is or you don't. And when you're new to Dungeons and Dragons, I had Watsy, what the hell is that? And of course, it's Wizards of the Coast. So no one ever says it though. So in my thing anyway, I'm starting. So anyway, so this was Tyranny of Dragons. This actually was originally released as Horde of the Dragon Queen. It was a two-parter. And again, it wasn't written by Wizards of the Coast, but they published it. And it actually released before I believe it was the Monster Manual, or maybe even the Dungeon Master's Guide. But anyway, they hadn't finished releasing all of the core rule books when this was being written and when it was released. So they had to make some stuff up in this book. And I believe in the reprintings, it's now the Horde of the Dragon Queen and the second part of it are now pushed into one. It's called Tyranny of Dragons, which you, of course, cannot see because I have my model thing here, Tyranny of Dragons. Again, I'm figuring this out. Anyway, I want to turn the camera around, but why is this camera, this one here? Why do I have a bachelor's degree in political science, but I can't seem to figure out how to invert the camera, either digitally or like if I wanted to turn around. Anyway, I'm still working with my lighting situation. But anyway, so what is this channel, right? And I realize no one is watching right now because, well, I just created the channel, and I'm doing this live stream more for myself really than for you. Because, well, let me explain what I mean by that. I am a first-time dungeon master, right? I've been playing for 2 years, and now I am going to be running as DM, and I want to run it for a while. I want to run the entire Horde of the Dragon Queen. Now, the problem is that the Tyranny of Dragons, as it's written, is really there's a lot of problems with it. And the major one most people ding it on is that it's linear. And you get railroaded, right? Pardon me, I'm gonna. Oh my God, how does that sound, right? Thankfully, no one is listening. So anyway, so it's very linear and it's railroady, and there's not really much motivation. They're just they happen to be in a town. Or really, they're not even in the town. They started out and blah, blah, blah. So I changed all of that because I put a whole backstory on Leosin, or Lantar, I believe is his name. And we got the prophecy going. We got prophecy going, and we got. I don't even tell this is. I don't think anybody knows this. Because I told people to stay away from spoilers about this one, and I'm like, I mean everything. Don't read a damn thing about it. And the reason why is because I am making it something that you discover the fact that the whole point of the book, and turn your volume down if you don't want to know the spoiler, which is whatever. Not well, I'll have to say it to say it's not a spoiler. But anyway, spoiler warning. And if you don't want to know, turn away now and then come back in like 10 seconds. Okay, you're gone. So the whole point of Tyranny of Dragons, Curse of the Dragon Queen, is to bring Tiamat into the world. And that is being done through a magical ritual with Severin, the head of the cult of the dragon, and with an allegiance to this breakaway group of red wizards. And they get together and they, make her, Tiamat, come into this world to escape the 9 hells. And you really don't want Tiamat on your plane, right? And I think, right, if I shake the table, then that shakes everything. That's not the best. Oh, I got to do this before I forget. In case I have to sync the audio and the video later, I'm going to clap. There you go. That's a nice audio way to line up the audio and the video. Anyway, so anyway, it's a very linear thing, and it's not very exciting. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna try to resurrect, whoever, or bring her in, and it's like, okay, is that it? I mean, that, like, there's a whole cult that they're in favor of one thing, and then just because one dude's, and this is according to the text, because one dude says, hey, I'm now the leader of this cult, and I think the doctrine is completely different. And the cult says, okay, and then they, do all the different things that they do in the, well, at least in the first half. In the second half, they're running around doing nothing. So people say the second half is better than the first. If railroading is like the sin against nature, I guess it's definitely more modular than that. But it also is like a bad 90s or odd video game where it's like each, like Hitman 1 and 2, okay, like the original ones. It's just like break into this house, right? There's no story. And then they write to some story later that connects all the different levels that they had created anyway. And it doesn't really make any sense, but you go there anyway. And sometimes you do something that matters. And sometimes written into the text, you go there, and the main thing that you're going to do, you cannot do. It's just like, oh no, it's not here. It's never been here. So this whole, and the guy who you were looking to talk to get it from, or whatever it is dead when you get there. So you can't even see him. Now, yes, you could resurrect him, and you can bring and you ask him the 5 questions and all that. But I'm like, so the thing that you're going to go get is not there, never was, and the guy that you went to talk to is dead. So, if you don't have the right spells, or you don't want to go on a super long thing over it, it's just pointless. So I'm sure I'm not being fair to it, but that was my assertion. So I personally saw things, and again, this is how I want to run this game. This is not how one should run the game. I'm just saying I'm seeing faults with it. But actually, I don't even want to focus on the faults, which is actually what the genesis of why I'm actually having this conversation is because it's a good backbone. So if you take the nuggets and you make them your own, okay. So that's what this channel is about. So I'm a first-time dungeon master. Basically, I've done some one-shots and whatnot, but this is my first campaign, playing 2.5, 3 years. 2.5 to 3 years. Yeah. So we're in chapter 2 now, Raiders Camp. And I again, I wanted to start this channel along with everything, but things don't happen the way you want. So anyway, we've already done Greenest and Frames, and there's a lot of backstory here that I'm really not even going to get into right now, that I will talk more about. But we're not getting to Raiders Camp in the same. Well, actually, we are. It's very similar. I have a lot of motivation and backgrounds and shenanigans going on, and connections and backstabbing and all these sorts of things. But when we're going into the Raiders Camp, I'm really going off book. It's just basically, these guys came in and fucked up Greenest. And you were there and you did some hero stuff, and we're like, who the fuck were those guys? And maybe we get some of the gold back and go get it. And so basically, I got backstory, motivations, all the other things, but the thing is, so we go in. Now, this is the thing, and this is sort of what I wanted to start talking about, is that, I should probably, let's see, I don't know if I'll see if anyone ever chats on this damn thing. But I would love to interact. That's why I'm doing it live. And Mr. Beast thing. Let's see. Go to your channel. Okay, this one is the live one. I hope I don't get chats on this. Okay. All right. I just want to be able to see what it's looking on live. All right. If there's any, of course, why would anyone watch? I don't understand. Google obviously agrees with me. They're like, no, this guy. Anyway, so what I wanted to do was, since all of these folks are going into the Raiders camp, I actually, and this is a side story, I actually want to talk about Raiders camp. Well, the motivations behind some of the characters that find themselves in the Raiders camp. But before my party's going to get there, they're going to encounter some totems. And this is where they meet the the group of, what do they call them? The rear guard. Now, stragglers, I got some other stuff for, but this is for rear guard. And I am not everything I'm playing. First of all, I want to say that I am playing. This is a physical game. There's nobody online. People are using D&D Beyond, as far as how they want to play the game. But I'm pretty much, except for the sound effects and stuff like that, going either theater of the mind, maps, ChessX, gridded maps, written out dungeons drawn out by me, sometimes from the book, just sort of, copying what the book does on the actual ChessX on the grid. But I am going to incorporate some level of terrain pieces and miniatures. And so this is the biggest thing I've made, and it's not by any imagination the best thing I've made. But I used scrap XPS foam and did this. And I'm, again, I am going to, in this channel, focus on terrain and miniatures and props and things of that nature. Like here's the map they give you for Greenest, right? Now I've printed this out. I know there's a bit of the thing. I printed it out and I darkened the paper with tea and coffee and other things. And I think actually I used Bob World Builders tea, or I'm sorry, soy sauce. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is part of the soy sauce, because those were always a little bit darker. And indeed, it does not smell. It does not smell like soy sauce at all. It has no odor other than paper. So maybe it was just the tea and coffee. The tea by itself, I didn't think was enough. I'm like, why am I doing this if it's not overly whatever? So yeah, that's what I used. But I made this sucker here. And again, I think all of this is inverted, the text. So I don't, until I fix that, I don't expect anyone to be able to read it. I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? But yeah, so I make stuff like that, and I make miniatures and all that type of stuff. But I think what I was wanting to really focus on today is not this, although I thought it was pretty and I thought it'd be good for the thumbnail. I wanted to, so we're getting into the Raiders camp, and and where the players are now, they're not at the rear guard yet. They are encountering the stragglers. Now, I could actually draw this. The stragglers, and why not? This is my campaign Bible. This is the world, because I'm Tyranny of Dragons was written in to be set in the Forgotten Realms, and you could easily change that. But I'm keeping it because I've been doing a lot of reading of the '90s Forgotten Realms D&D novels, and I'm trying to run a world that's similar to that. I mean, I'm modernizing it. I'm taking some of the gender stuff, the masculine, women stereotypical sort of stuff, taking that out of it. But I do want to play up the political instability, right? And the fact that the Forgotten Realms, it was very aware of the different, what they knew, the species, right? The species. The Forgotten Realms was very aware of the different species, and the realm, and and the different species had very different cultures. So you had your dwarven culture and your elven culture, and within the elven culture, there were several different types of elves, and same really with the dwarven culture. You had the was it the Duergar, the dark elves, or I'm sorry, the dark dwarves. And then you had all sorts of different gnomes. As you got deeper, some were good, some were evil. That whole thing. The Snivniblin, or whatever the hell, however you're supposed to pronounce that. Snurniblin, Sirniblin, Sirniblin, the deep gnomes, the Snurniblin, maybe Sirniblin. Anyway, so but they gave them very different cultures, and they gave them a history there, right? And that's, I think, one of the interesting things, is because you don't get to choose your history, right? Like in the real world. In fantasy, you obviously do. But if you're playing in someone else's fantasy world, and not everything needs to be canon or true or anything really, but when you come to it, there's already a written record, right? So not every piece of that written record needs to be consumed before you exist in it. And so that brings in, and this is, I think, one of the things that's unique to the TTRPG space, and I think it's one of the primary things that D&D brought into the world of gaming in 1974. Anyway, when he and Dave Arneson collaborated, and this game appeared. So that creates a dichotomy, right? There's written historical record in the Forgotten Realms, but me as a DM, I don't know all of it, and some of it I probably have wrong, and other stuff I don't know. I don't even know that I don't know about it, and it's an unknown unknown. So, which is like where we are, right? In the real world, right? We live with a history, but whose history, right? Different people write different histories, and history, the perspectives on it change and differ and argued about. So that makes it so when you look at reality versus the Forgotten Realms, it's sort of the same. Your existing reality, you don't know the history of the history of the history, right? You might not know how to launch a satellite into space, but people do it, and they work, and the things work, because how do I know when I use my cell phone, it works, and I could call my mom in Los Angeles. So I know, like, science and technology are working because I have empirical proof, unless I'm in a very high-end simulation. And if I'm in that high-end simulation, am I the player character or an NPC? That's the thing. Anyway, so I'm trying to live in the Forgotten Realms as I understand it. And with that comes, and again, there's a lot of gender stuff, and it was written in a time, and it reflects its time. And there's just some gender politics in there that I just think that we've had those discussions. Other people have had those discussions. I don't think it's an interesting discussion. I think it's interesting for the Forgotten Realms to be a place of uh, gender and sexual orientation. These things are not controversial. These, I really, because you know what, there's so much out there that is focused on this being an issue that people are living with. And absolutely, if you're talking about uh, whether it be gender or sexual orientation or race or ethnicity or any of these sorts of things, religion, um, there comes a lot of baggage. I just personally, with my own personal life experience, in my fantasy world, I think there's a range of everybody, and we don't have the expectation that, oh my God, a female barbarian. I've never seen that before. It's blowing my mind. And my father's father would never have stood for it for his own daughter. Like, I don't want to tell one of the stories. Women and men are both equal, and some are weak, some are strong, some are smart, some are stupid, some take advantage of what they are given, and others do not. Others accentuate other things or create magic or incantations. So there you go. That's my thing. And I worked in the genders and sexual orientation space for a long time. And I've given my creative energies to that community, and I wish them all the best. But what I want to do here, so I want to exist in a world of racial and economic distress, but I don't want to exist in a place where been there, done that with any of the sorts of issues. I want to, if I'm not making, and I want to make players make interesting choices in a world where these things exist. There you go. But really, none of that matters right now because we're just going in. We're following the trail, right? In Tyranny of Dragons, there's a town that is attacked and looted, and the bad guys get away. And the good guys, the player characters, follow them the next day. And the trail is very clear. There's a lot of debris. A lot of people went very slowly, messily, whatnot, and they're going to the Raiders camp. So now, following morning, blah blah blah. The players are going to be following the trail and going to the Raiders camp. And I want to make that interesting. Now, like I said, with this guy right here, that there's a couple, but see, and that was the thing. Was it going to be combat? And I don't really make terrain if there isn't going to be combat involved, I think. But just because I create terrain doesn't mean there's actually going to be combat, because it actually gives them other ways besides combat to engage with the game and the story. So like, well, here, let's just, all right, this is probably more interesting than me working on Leo. What I was planning on doing was working on Leosin's background and motivation with you. And clearly I haven't done that. And I'm going to cut this down into hopefully smaller things. But when I stream, because I'm getting tired. I know I'm a baby. I got to go 24 hours or something. Anyway, when I create something like this, it's not just combat. Because I made a whole hillside of heads, right? So this one is clearly broken and it's split down the middle, and there's like you could build. There's like I made a little campsite right here, and again, this was just XPS foam that was sort of from something else, and so the cobalt I'm making, and I'm changing everything from the text other than it exists, right? So here's this head that's sort of split open, but there's this ridge line where, and I think even in the book it's difficult terrain. And so anyway, this is sort of a choke point where this one thing cracks, and I wanted to make it so it cracks in a plate like that doesn't look natural. That looks like some magical thing moved time and space. Anyway, again, that's just more of an implied thing. And then so I did the human campsite, and I did the kobold campsite. And the kobolds are the ones that are going to be patrolling, and this is where the players will be coming from this direction. Again, and so the kobolds will be out front here, defending and camping, and then I'm going to have some cult members back here, maybe one guy up here. I'm going to have them with their guard drakes and their well, not even the weaker of the two, because I'm throwing higher level cultists at them, and so I'm going to give them the lower level drakes because I figure those will be sort of nasty. And then maybe I'll hold one back, and if it's too easy, I'll make them the more difficult drake, right? So you can play with it like that too. So, but yeah, I wanted to make the rear guard. I wanted to make that. Now, well, initially the initial thought was I wanted to give the walk from greenest to the raider camp. I want to give it a feeling, because it was just fields breaking away to sort of jaggedy rock, cool, extreme rock formations forming and making things a little bit more difficult on the players, but spectacular, but not super spectacular. And so I'm like, well, why don't we put heads in? Now, I realize I'm not the first person to say, hey, Easter Island is cool. Let's make it even more badass. And so, and that was sort of the idea that started me, because I wasn't going to craft. I wasn't going to use minis. I was going to use maps, but I was going to use coins instead of minis. And my DM sort of slot sort of slid back further than I was anticipating, and I had time to kill, and so I started building stuff. And so the first thing that I built were the heads. Where are the heads? I could get them. Let me get them, because because no one's watching anyway, and so I could change it. All right, edit it out. Re-edit. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, there you go. So I made some, and this was the thing. I was just going to do scatter terrain, and that was the thing. And so these were some of the first things I made were these guys, right? They're all sort of different, but this is sort of the biggest one that I think it's the easiest one to see. And here, I'll move this guy out. And so it was just basically going to be, these guys on the battle mat, and this is Yoda. So he's not going to be there. I don't know. Maybe Yoda will make an appearance. Anyway, so Yoda's going to be out there on the battle map, and there's something to hide behind, And I made an even bigger one recently. He has flowers growing out of his face. See, I'm going to have to figure out the best camera angles to show stuff, because again, that's sort of what the player would view it as, right? Just sort of, oh, it's a rock. Like if you were walking up to that looks like a rock. But if you're standing on it, you're like, oh shit, that's a face, right? That's a face. Or is that a face? I think that's a face for you. Right, everything. So yeah. So anyway, so I made these little bits of terrain. I'm like, oh, well, that'll be like covered, because you put a pillar on a map or something, and you put, okay, there's a big rock there. You don't really feel it, and I wanted people to feel it. And so, and I, again, like I said, I had some spare time, and so I started making these things. And I'm like, okay, at certain different points, and I wanted to. Oh, this one has a little thing. I wanted to make them nice. I wanted to make it like, if it's going to be there and going to catch your eye, I know, and they're never done. And I'm always like, oh, I could do a little more and make it a little bit better. But I also think with this terrain stuff, like I want to make it beautiful and evocative, and to really give people an experience around the table again. But you got to move on. You got to work on something else. These things, I make them for the table, right? And so, like this, while I didn't So they were around these rocks and whatnot, and so and they were doing this strategery thing, and maybe I'll put up that map here, but and that's and then they get to this, and I've seen that was the thing. I was making these pieces, the scatter terrain. I was making these scatter terrain bits, and I didn't have like a finish to it. And I'm like, oh, you want to sort of have something at the end where that something sort of comes out of the end. And it's like, oh, so your scatter terrain is awesome. But if you just put it there and that's it, then that's great. And there's a lot there, and there's a lot of gameplay, and I'm adding gameplay to it. And as you can see, with the things I will put on the brand of this, what you're going to be able to do is create because an ebb and flow of gameplay. And so you want to build, you want to have people see. That's the thing. You, especially me, because I'm not me personally, but the group of us who physically all get into the same place. There's 7 of us that get together. There's me and there's 6 players. And if I am going to be able, as a dungeon master, ask 6 people to come and play in my game and tell their story, and that gets back to a belief system, but it's going to be my world, right? My version of the Forgotten Realms, and it'll be their ability to play in it, and they will create, what I'm going to do is there are things happening in the world, right? We cannot help the things that other people do in other parts of the world, right? Whether it be our country or further afield. And again, these are issues that I'd like to deal with the game, like real life things in this. Now, this might not be for everybody, and again, my way of playing is not the way for everybody. But I think that in a world that you can't tell what's real and what's not real, then fantasy might be the best way to access it. Because within fantasy, with living in this sort of, existing in this fantasy sort of realm, there's a certain amount of that are BS, that just has this silliness. And the rest of it is like written, authored fiction. Okay. And then there's this random element. And basically, I want to put people in situations where they're like, not just what am I going to do when I'm fighting? What did I put Yoda? When Yoda comes out, what here? What are the hit points the dragon is going to inflict on Yoda when they meet, right? And well, he might actually be able to get him already with his breath weapon. I don't know how far the Force shoots. Is that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 30? They're within 30. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, when these things happen, is it just the combat, or is there something in our minds, and is there some meaning to these things, and how present are we in the world? There's the fighting, and then there's also, you got to go to the party, right? At the now, I didn't make this. I bought this. This is like something I got. I don't know where the heck I got this. I think this was at Joann's. They had that 60% sale. And I think they're going out of business. Anyway, and I'm like, it's a little big for 28 scale miniatures, but I thought that I might break off the lower part, this bottom part, and make this the bottom. And so it makes it a little bit small. Actually, I could even break off that, and that actually would be just make it a 1-tier thing. Or maybe I could make 3. I could make 3 fountains out of this, right? If I break it here, right? So that could be 1, and then break it here, right? It's here, and then at the base that would be 2, and then this would be just a looking pool, and that's 3 pieces of. Now this will be very difficult to break in the right way, right? That's where I'm fearful. I think, I don't know, a saw of some sort that will go through porcelain and not break it, or just drop it and and make it ruins. I don't know. Maybe tell me in the comments, right? Should I just break it and make it ruins, or should I try to meticulously cut it apart and have to investigate, right, online whether you could even cut? I think this is like a. What is this? Can you cut this? Uh, what is it? Yeah, I don't know if it even says what it's made out of. It's not food, right? It's made in China, so I'm glad I got it now before it gets too expensive. It was originally US $13, but it was on the 60% off sale, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think it says greenery making supplies. It's some sort of ceramic, it feels like. So, and then it has a resin or some sort of plastic here, which I don't love, but what are you going to do? Anyway, so yes, so I do, there is, I think with the 3 pillars get it wrong, right? Right. It's because I come along in 2025 and tell Gary and everybody else what's wrong. So it's combat, exploration, and role play, right? Combat, yes. Role play, yes. Exploration, it's just like I tell you, it's not necessarily, it doesn't feel to me like it's exploration. For me, it's exploration because I get to explore this fake world in my mind. But for the players, they're like, oh, I found myself where the dungeon master puts me. So yes, they could go where they want. Is that exploration, or is that give me a playground? And I think because exploration seems, you're not really, like, we're going through the forest. Okay, we found something. It's like finding something is, yes, you have to explore, but the exploring is the part that you fast travel through, right? It's going through the woods, and they had the side quests and stuff like that. But the side quests were like randomly rolled and had nothing to do with anything. And so it's like, so my story is so weak and my world is so passive that we just have to attack monsters. And there's a well with the mysterious secret that ends with a helmet. I want to do, I think, a playground, right? I put the players into a scene and give them things to play with, hints, things that they find, clues, interesting people they encounter, interesting buildings and interesting, ruins and things that have depth. But all these things are give them things to play with, not necessarily. Yes, you could say yes. Oh, I've given them a hillside of heads. Go explore. Oh, look, there's this type of wildlife. There's this type of flowers. Oh, look, there's mushrooms over here. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if the carvings were carved, or were they magically made? And are they in fact just statues? Are they statues at all? And the fact that they know they are not, right? Because that's fun. If I create something like this guy, which, no, it doesn't look at all like me. Why would I make myself into a Easter Island guy? That would be weird, right? Because I'm not God, except in D&D. Anyway, I want you to be able to pull these levers and play these things and see these things out in a way that is more than just feeling the grass and finding the rock, and so I think that's more apt to be a playground than exploration, because I don't know. I think it's not necessarily wrong to call it exploration, but I think it gives people the wrong idea of what the experience is like. And I think the experience, at least in the game that I'm trying to create, is, oh, I'm in a playground and can I do this? Can I do that? And there's no, I guess I'm eventually the parent that says, no, you cannot do that. That is impossible. But you could try. And I did that last week. And one of the first things I'm like in my head, no, there's no way that you could possibly do that. And the guy wanted to do it. And I said, okay, you could try. And when in doubt, that's why I have my D100 here, right? Because at any moment, if you're asking for the impossible, I'll give you a roll on my T100. Like if it's possible, right? Like if it could be in a fantasy realm, and if there's any chance that it could possibly happen, as a DM, I don't want to say no. I don't want to say no. I want to say you can try. And if I do that, and I encourage them and I let them know to do that, then I think I'm doing a good job for my players. And, hopefully they have a good time, and I love doing it, and I will have a good time. But that's the important thing, is to enjoy it. All right, I'm going to end this and see if I can get the audio afterwards and do other things with this. We will see. Be well and come back.